Hi everyone, thanks for watching. In case you're new to my channel, I previously have posted a series of videos that connect Donald J. Trump to dozens of Bible verses about the Antichrist. Simply put, the Bible has many specific descriptions of the Antichrist, and they all seem to match Trump to a T. In this video, however, it gets even stranger, as in addition to all those Bible verses pointing to Trump as the Antichrist, there are also tons of other strange coincidences about him in popular culture or in his personal life. It's as if we've been warned about this guy going back over 100 years. Many of these coincidences are common knowledge, but a few might take you by surprise as well. Some of these connect Trump to the Antichrist, others deal with Trump and the end of the world, or the number 666, and others are just weird coincidences. Really weird. By the way, I'm not claiming that this is an exhaustive list. I'm sure that there are many other odd and unusual things involving Trump out there. If you do know of anything else that I missed here, please post it in the comments below. One last thing, this is not a Bible-based video, nor do I claim that these are signs from God. So please take all of these odd coincidences with a grain of salt. And without further delay, let's begin. Number 1. As most people know, Trump's mother is named Mary Ann McLeod, and his father is named Frederick Christ Trump. So Donald's parents are named Mary and Christ. That's not only weird, but incredibly rare if you think about all the billions of people who have ever lived and how few of them would have a mother named Mary and a father named Christ. Speaking of his mother, she once asked Trump's first wife, and I quote, "What kind of son have I created?" Number 2. Going way back to 1874, there was an anonymously authored book called The Odd Trump, which had as its hero a man named Trump. What's so strange about this book? Well, it seems like this particular Trump had a friend and sometimes rival who was named Clinton, of course. Number 3. In 1889, we find a children's book called Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump, which was written by a gentleman named Ingersoll Lockwood. Lockwood also penned a sequel in 1893, which was entitled Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. According to Wikipedia, these two novels recount the adventures of the German boy Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump, who goes by Baron Trump, as he discovers weird underground civilizations, offends the natives, flees from his entanglements with local women, and repeats this pattern until arriving back home at Castle Trump. On the surface, it's simply an odd coincidence that Donald Trump has a son named Baron, and these books talk about a little boy named Baron Trump. But that's not the weird part. Just like Donald J. Trump, the Baron Trump of these novels often mentions his massive brain. Sound familiar? Plus, he has a personalized insult for most people he meets. Does that also sound familiar? Even stranger, this Baron Trump lives in a building named after himself called Castle Trump. The real-life Donald Trump owned a casino named Trump Castle, and for years lived in another building named for himself Trump Tower. Number 4. The author of these two books, Ingersoll Lockwood, didn't confine himself to children's books, however, as he also penned a dystopian novel called 1900 or The Last President. In this book, New York City is filled with protest following the shock victory of a populist candidate in the 1896 presidential election, one who brings about the downfall of the American Republic. Quoting from an article in Newsweek about this book, the story begins with a scene from a panicked New York City in early November, describing a state of uproar after the election of an enormously opposed outsider candidate. The entire East Side is in a state of uproar, the article continues. Mobs of vast size are organizing under the lead of anarchists and socialists and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob, the novel continues. citing an address in New York City where Trump Tower now stands. Would the troops be in time to save it, the novel asks. Now, that statement about the troops sure seems eerie, considering how the real-life Donald Trump looks for any reason he can find to bring the military onto American streets. Will New York City see large-scale protest on Fifth Avenue after Trump wins re-election? Time will tell, but I, for one, wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Number 5. This one could almost be its own video. But in the 1976 movie The Omen, the Antichrist is named Damien Thorn. Through this movie and its sequels, we learn there are many odd coincidences about Antichrist Damien Thorn and Donald J. Trump. Here are just a few of them. The DT initials, both with 6 letters in the first name and 5 in the last. The names of Damien and Donald both mean one who rules, dominates, or subdues. Both are liars and both brag about achieving great things. Both attended military academies. Both became incredibly rich via inheritances. Both turned their inheritances into vast multinational business enterprises and bought real estate all over the globe. Both had older brothers who died, allowing the younger sons to take over the family business. Damien Thorn takes over Thorn Industries in 1971. Donald Trump took over Trump Organization in 1971. Both rose to political power by lying and deceiving the masses. Both rallied legions of mesmerized followers. Both operated construction companies while in the White House. It's almost as if the Omen movies were written in advance about Donald J. Trump. Maybe they were. Number 6. The 1989 movie Back to the Future 2 had a character named Biff Tannen, who was based on Donald Trump. In this sequel to the original 1985 blockbuster, Biff uses the profits from his towering casino to help shake up the Republican Party before eventually assuming political power himself. In what becomes a lawless dystopian wasteland, Biff encourages every citizen to call him America's greatest living folk hero. Number 7. The 1997 movie Devil's Advocate was a supernatural thriller that starred Al Pacino as none other than Satan himself. Some scenes in the movie were not sets built in some Hollywood studio, or even in hell, but in fact were filmed inside Donald Trump's penthouse at the Trump Tower. The Devil's Advocate indeed. Number 8. In the 2012 movie Batman, we see the entrance to Wayne Enterprises, named after our iconic hero, Bruce Wayne. The building that the movie used for Wayne Enterprises is actually the front of Trump Tower. The name of that movie? The Dark Knight Rises. Seems very appropriate. Here's a fake news alert. You may have seen a Simpsons episode that hilariously showed Trump coming down the escalator to announce his presidency, only with Homer behind him instead of Melania. Some people mistakenly claim that this episode was shown before Trump actually did that in real life. That's not true, as this episode showing Trump and Homer coming down the escalator was in reality broadcast about 6 weeks after Trump and Melania did it in real life, and that was back in 2015. But there is a true Simpsons prediction. Number 9. The Simpsons. In the year 2000, there was an episode called Bart to the Future, as a riff on the Back to the Future movies we just discussed. In Bart to the Future, Lisa becomes president. Her first order of business is to try to clean up the big mess left by the previous president. Who was that previous president? Why, Donald J. Trump, of course. Number 10. One of the more startling coincidences involving Trump is from an old TV show called Trackdown, which ran on CBS from 1957 to 1959. One episode during the 1958 season depicts a small western town full of frightened people who fear that disaster is about to befall them. Why do they believe this? Because a man named Walter Trump just came into town out of nowhere and claimed that a disaster was going to destroy that town, and only he had the power to stop it. How was he going to stop this disaster from happening? Why, Trump was going to build a wall, of course. Oh, and in case you couldn't guess, the title of this episode that starred Trump the Con Man was called The End of the World. Number 11. We all know that Donald J. Trump has a history with porn stars. Well, in 1998, there was an adult magazine that asked the question, Donald Trump, the next president? The name of that magazine was Genesis. just like the first book of the Bible. Also, that magazine came out in January of 1998, and 1998 is 666 times 3, because, of course. Number 12. Trump was on another magazine cover, this time about 36 years ago, in 1985. The magazine was called Manhattan, Inc., and is now defunct. Trump was pictured holding a dove to symbolize his plans for world peace, because if there's anyone who can bring peace and harmony to this world, it's definitely Donald J. Trump. Side note, have you noticed how many sixes just seem to pop up nowadays? They're everywhere. For example, almost all of the security or validation codes that you have text to your phone are 6 digits. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, so how far should we social distance in order to be safer? Why, 6 feet, of course. Sixes are everywhere, and most definitely, sixes also surround Trump and his family. Number 13. In 2017, the first year of the Trump presidency, the U.S. budget deficit widened to $666 billion. This is the only time in history that the U.S. budget deficit was in the amount of $666 billion. Number 14. On February 2nd, 2018, slightly more than 1 year into the Trump presidency, the stock market lost 666 points. This is the only time in history that the stock market lost 666 points. Number 15. Trump achieved 666 delegates on the Ides of March. The Ides of March, in case you don't know, is March 15th. As Shakespeare wrote, beware the Ides of March. This date has a bit of evil attached to it, as March 15th equates to 315, which some see as 3 sixes. Remember Amityville Horror and how the guy kept waking up at 3:15 a.m.? Number 16. On September 25th of 2020, Trump announced a plan to give all Medicare recipients a $200 cash card. Since Trump's plan would cover 33 million Medicare recipients, his plan would cost, yep, you guessed it, $6.6 billion. Number 17. Trump became president in 2016. Guess what? 2016 equals 666 plus 666 plus 666 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Because why not? And by the way, Trump is 6 foot 3 inches tall, which equates to 6 times 3 or 3 sixes. Because, of course. Fake news alert. You may have heard that Trump Tower is 203 meters tall, and that equals 666 feet. In truth, Trump Tower is a shade under 203 meters tall. Thus, it isn't quite 666 feet tall. It's actually 664 feet tall. So pretty close, but not quite on that one. Number 18. I mentioned the Omen movie a few minutes ago. In Omen 2, Damien Thorne's birth date is revealed to be June 6, 1966, which is, of course, 666. Well, guess what else happened on that date? June 6, 1966 just happens to be the exact date of the death of Donald Trump's grandmother, from which Donald inherited her estate. Her name was Elizabeth Christ Trump, and it was Elizabeth Christ Trump who incorporated the Trump family business that Donald Trump took over and ran after her death. Thus, Donald J. Trump became the heir of the Trump family business on the same day that the fictional Damien Thorne was born. Number 19. Gematria is a way to calculate the numerical value of a name based on the letters in a name. Interestingly, Biblical Hebrew was a language that consisted only of consonants without vowels. Guess what happens if you put the name of Donald J. Trump into a Gematria calculator without the vowels? Yep, you end up with 666. Number 20. We all know about Trump's son-in-law owning 666 Fifth Avenue. The 666 Tower, purchased by Jared, was bought for $1.8 billion. And again, we have the number 18, which is 3 sixes. Number 21. A blood moon happens when Earth's moon is in a total lunar eclipse. And in the Bible, blood moons are a harbinger or warning sign of terrible events to come. In fact, in the book of Acts, we read, "The sun shall be turned into darkness." and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. Oh yeah, guess who was actually born on a blood moon? Yes, Donald J. Trump. Trump has also other blood moon references and celestial phenomena surrounding his presidency, and you can find a lot of details about them in other YouTube videos. Number 22. The name Donald means world ruler. Think of it as a powerful mafia don. The name Trump means to upstage, to outrank, or the triumph, but it also has a connotation of trickery, for instance, trumped-up charges. Number 23. At the end of 2017, Trump decided to change the name of his Trump Soho Tower in downtown Manhattan. For a new name, he chose the Dominic, which means the Lord and Master. Interestingly, the name change to the Dominic was good for business, as revenues increased by 20%. Personally, I'm surprised it didn't increase by 66%. Number 24. Have you noticed that Christians seem to love Trump, even though he's lived a life that's pretty much anti-Christ in every way? Well, here's something odd. The man that Christians have lined up behind seems to have a very cross-like symbol that he uses to mark his name on buildings around the world. I'm surprised Damien Thorne didn't think of this one. Side note, did you ever hear of alliterations? Alliterations are the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. Well, let's get ready for a few alliterations. Number 25. In the Bible, the angel of the bottomless pit is named Abaddon, and Abaddon is, of course, a bad don. Number 26. In the book of Revelation, trumpets are sounded just prior to the day of the Lord. Is it surprising then that Donald Trump's running mate is a man named Pence? Trumpets, trumpets. Number 27. In the Bible, the Antichrist arrives on the scene riding a white horse. White horse, White House. And by the way, the rider of that white horse is also given a crown. Crown means, among other things, corona. Number 28. Trump is the first president in over 120 years to not have a dog in the White House, or any pet for that matter. Could it be because animals seem repulsed by him? By the way, a few moments ago I mentioned the Damon Thorne character from The Omen. In the movie, animals are also terrified of Damien Thorne. As they say, animals just have a way of detecting evil. Number 29. Did you ever notice the strange physical resemblance between Donald Trump and L. Ron Hubbard? They just looked like they could be cousins, or even brothers. Of course, one thing they have in common is being notorious liars, especially about their own accomplishments. In 1946, a few years before his Scientology days, L. Ron Hubbard took part in a series of magic rituals alongside a gentleman named Jack Parsons. Parsons was himself quite famous, being a rocket engineer from Caltech and one of the principal founders of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. These two men conducted a series of occult rituals from January to March of 1946, rituals that were based on the ideas of Aleister Crowley. The purpose of these rituals was to reincarnate a goddess called Babylon, while other reports have the purpose as trying to bring about the Antichrist. The really weird part is that Hubbard apparently believed that an unborn fetus was so-called an empty vessel, up until about the age of 3 months. During that time, it could be implanted with this Babylon spirit. And as of January 1946, the time when these occult rituals would have been taking place, guess what unborn baby would have been about 3 months old in the womb? That's right, none other than Donald J. Trump. Number 30. Nostradamus spoke of the false trumpet concealing madness that will change money and standards. He wrote, "The trumpet shakes with great discord, an agreement broken. The false message about the rigged election to run through the city, stopping the broken pact. Voices bought, chapel stained with blood, the empire contracted to another one." Fake news alert. You may have read that Trump lives on the 66th floor of Trump Tower. This is actually not true, mostly because the building is only 58 floors high. Why would people think this building had more floors? Because, surprise, surprise, Trump lied about it a long time ago and claimed it had 10 more floors than it did. In reality, the Trump penthouse in Trump Tower is on the 56th, 57th, and 58th floors, which are the top 3 floors of the building. It is odd, though, that he wanted people to think that he lived on his 66th floor. Maybe he just likes the number 6. Number 31. In the 1980s, a Catholic man nicknamed the Hermit of Loreto was so convinced that Donald Trump would one day become a great spiritual force in America that he wrote Trump's name on a brick and had it placed at the reconstruction of St. Peter's Holy Door after the Jubilee in order that Trump would have received blessings from the many masses that would be said inside the Vatican. Of course, exactly what spiritual force Donald Trump would be bringing to America is up for debate. Number 32. The Bible talks about 3 demons and likens them to frogs. Guess what symbols the alt-right chose to use in ritual magic in order to help Trump? Yep, Pepe the Frog and other frog-like symbols. Number 33. Inverted pyramids are everywhere. You see them on Trump Tower, on Trump administration emails. Trump himself makes this gesture almost every time he's sitting. It's no small coincidence that inverted pyramids are quite popular in the occult. Number 34. In August of 2016, a man named Steven Rogata climbed Trump Tower and was subsequently caught about halfway up. Later, when asked why he did it, he said it has to do with when he becomes president, how he'll govern. This was 3 months before Trump officially won the election. Number 35. The music at Trump rallies. It almost seems like Trump is hiding in plain sight with some of these music selections he chooses. The music at his rallies has typically included Sympathy for the Devil, also another Stones song called Play with Fire. Number 36. The Snake Poem. I'll leave you with this for today. It's a video of Trump reading a short poem entitled The Snake. Is it just me, or does Trump sound like he's referring to himself as the snake?
On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you." She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. "I have saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Oh, shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in."
I appreciate you watching. If you have any other strange coincidences or oddities about Trump, please add them in the comments below. And as always, please be respectful of one another in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Take care.